Okay, so welcome. If you're here for the Romania report out, give yourself a pat on the back. You made it to the right place. So nobody's doing it. No, okay. Good job. So what we want to do is first we want to kind of go through and introduce everybody. Then we're going to sit down, and the rest of the flow is basically we're gonna talk a little bit about the trip. You're going to see a video, and we'll go through it just so you can experience what we've done. So I'll let everyone go around and introduce themselves real quick.
Hi everybody, I'm out here. This is Tim. I'm Matt Fuller. I'm Jason Griffin.
Buzz Bingham.
Nate Ogden.
Vance Clark.
Cool. Yeah, you can sit if you want. There you go.
Down now?
Yep. Okay, so you kind of met the team here a little bit. Minus one. She's got a migraine at home. Her name's Becca, but she'll be dearly missed. But the team has just returned from Romania about a month ago, and as we've been reflecting, you can kind of see that real life, godly change comes from returning home and reflecting on that experience that we had in Romania. So we want to reflect with you this afternoon on what God has taught us individually and also what He accomplished through us on this missions trip and this whole experience. So we're really excited to share with you what we experienced. So the first question you might have is, why did we go to Romania? And hopefully most of you know why. But there will be a slide up here behind me. We went to go support the church Cali Spre Ser. And that's the church on your right, in the right picture. Cali Spre Ser means way to heaven in Romanian. And we went there to go to minister and just be with the youth and with the children. And also, as you know, we went to go build a parsonage, which is basically a home that belongs to the church. And why we went to build that home is for the pastor on your left, the picture on your left. His name is Adi and Moni Gaspar, and they currently are the pastor of the Church of Cali Spre Ser. If you look back to the picture where the church is at, you can see that there's a building on the right side of the church, and that is the children's ministry building. Currently, Adi and Moni are actually living in that children's ministry building for the past 7 years. So if the team has been there, they've kind of seen it. It's a very, very small building, and the purpose of building the home then was to pull them out of that children's ministry building so it can be used for what it was built for, children's ministry, as well as they've been talking to the community there in Rost about starting an after-school program, which then allows the kids to come in after school to be tutored, to have an education. And really the underlying purpose of that was to spread the gospel to those kids and the youth in Rost, Romania. So yes, we went to go minister to the youth and the kids of Romania. Yes, we went to go build a home. But the long-term goal and the purpose of that was in order to free up that children's ministry for that after-school program in order to push the gospel out in different parts of the community there. So what we'd like to do now is, you know the why. What we want to do is try to connect you with as much experience that we've had there, because the team experienced it, you didn't. So what we want to do is show you a little bit of a movie so you can kind of connect with it and see the sights, the sounds, and just what we experienced as a team in Romania. So, without further ado, here's the movie. Hopefully, Lord willing, it works. It's about a 40-minute movie, so get comfortable.
Nate and I went to Romania 6 years ago, and to the same place, and we like to say that it just completely ruined us in the best of ways, and so that's why we keep going back. So as you can see, we had a lot of fun, and we worked hard, we played hard, all while just soaking in God's goodness and His beauty and His perfection, especially in the faces of those little kids. You can just see how precious they are, and that week that we had with the team of this unhindered, pure, just perfect, true fellowship with each other was a taste of heaven. And I would give anything to go back there right now. So I just wanted to share a little bit with just something that God taught me when I was there. Before we left, I asked the Lord to show me what is life really like for a missionary's wife, not what is life like for a wife who goes on a short-term missions trip. I had already done that 4 times before. I wanted to know what life was like for Moni and for Carolyn and all those other women in the world that are missionaries' wives. I wanted to know, what did Jesus mean when he said, "Take up your cross and follow me," or "Go into the nations and count others as more valuable than yourselves"? I really just wanted to know that. So, so one of my tasks for the project was to document it. And at first I was like, oh, that's great. I love photography and I have the gear for it, and it's my passion, so easy. I'd love to do that. It was kind of a given to do that. But as the week progressed, I noticed that, or I felt like I really wasn't contributing anything at all. Or I felt like I wasn't. It doesn't take much effort at all to push the button of a camera. And I just really feel like I felt kind of helpless. And 90% of the time I was holding my camera, and I can't pick up a hammer and nail something. I couldn't lift lumber and move it from one place to the other. I couldn't even properly give a hug to a kid. It was just this awkward kind of hug because I had the camera in one hand. And so I was starting to feel a bit resentful about that. I found myself thinking, I really want to be involved with this construction project. I grew up with 2 brothers, and I can do this. I've shingled a roof before. I can do this. Or I really just wanted to play with the kids and do more hands-on stuff with them, like with the crafts. And I wanted to just go on a walk with Moni and have girl time with her. And but I had a task. I was given a job, and God does this thing where he finds the most perfect, suitable job for someone, and he gives it to them right when they don't want it and when they're not ready to take it on, or they think they're not ready to do it. So that just brought me back to my conversation I had with God before we left, which was, again, Lord, what's it like? What is it like to be a missionary's wife? And the only thing that I kept thinking was sacrifice after sacrifice after sacrifice. That sacrificing so much, and even having little, if not any, recognition for anything. A lot of behind the scenes going on for a missionary's wife. And so I just got to thinking, Jesus is our example. And what did he do? He sacrificed so much. He sacrificed it all. And to say the least, I was completely humbled when that kind of clicked in my mind, and so humbled me. And I was so thankful. I am now just so thankful for the opportunity to be the person to take pictures and to do video and all of that, and to share that with you guys and with the team. I know now that a missionary's wife sacrifices so much: her time, her energy, her space. I'm thinking of Moni, and she has no space of her own. Even her husband's time, and so, probably so much more than I can even think of. But we are called to be like Jesus. And what this whole thing taught me is I want to be more like him, and I need to be more like him. So that's what I learned.
I gotta get comfortable, because I am so uncomfortable. So, sorry. Because really, truthfully, nobody wanted to really do this part. That part was awesome. But this is our responsibility. When we get to experience something like that, it's our responsibility to give God the glory, right? So, it's uncomfortable. Anyways, after watching those videos and stuff, I was just overwhelmed. And if you've ever ate a meal where it was rich in nutrients, you weren't stuffed and you were hurting, or you weren't still hungry, it was just satisfied. That's the way I could sum up Romania. really. It's just you're satisfied. They don't have anything really over there, but they have everything. So I was trying to decide if I was going to write or if I was going to tell you experiences. And I chose to write because I'm scared and I lose all my train of thought. But no, because I could tell you like story after story after story about the awesomeness that just interacting with the people and the kids and Moni and Audie and just everything. So as I got up this morning to just talk to the Lord, I just asked, Lord, what do you want me to say? And it's not what I wanted to say because I'm a little ashamed. So bear with me. Wow, how do you sum up months into a few minutes? This process God was going to do in our hearts didn't start on October 4th when we left for Romania, but 6 months before when Nate and Christine invited the church to be a part of some awesomeness that God was doing in a small part of the world. At first I wanted to talk about Romania now and the beautiful people we met, but that's what the pictures in our videos are for. I needed to talk about what's on my heart and what God showed me this morning about me. You see, I was scared at first when I volunteered and many times wanted to back out. But long story short, the week before I left, I hurt my back. And my head went into this whirlwind, spiritually speaking, thinking, Lord, what is this all about? The one thing I was hanging on to for Romania and feeling somewhat qualified was my strength. I'm strong. I could help the boys build a house. I could do this. But now I can barely tie my shoes. Now what? Do I go anyways? Am I going to be useful or am I going to be a waste of good space? Maybe somebody should take my place. Well, obviously I went. But I am ashamed to say I went with this stinky, self-centered, self-pity attitude. And God was ever so patient with me, knowing the outcome. I was remembering my basketball days this morning and the joy and the passion I had during the game. Oh man, when I would shoot a three-point and it would sink to the bottom of the net and you would hear the crowd go crazy because that bucket just gave us the lead with the 2 minutes left on the game. Or I would steal the ball and my girl would be already down court because she knew that I was going to do that and she was waiting for the pass. I felt on top of the world for that moment. But there are games I was off and I couldn't hit a three-point to save my life. I would get so frustrated with myself, which caused me to get down in my confidence, and that was just the spiral effect. My team spirit gets weak. I'm not an example anymore on the floor, and all this time my coach is watching it happen. Then he has to make a decision to pull me out of the game based off my attitude and my actions. He doesn't want to. He knows I'm a key player, and he needs me on that court. It actually hurts him to sit me on that bench. But I'm the one who took myself out of the game. And the second day in Romania, I sat myself on that bench, literally speaking, the bench in the church. And I cried out to the Lord, help me. I don't want to be a part of this pity party. Help me, Lord, to change my attitude. And God can do wonders with a simple confession and a simple surrender. Because by that afternoon, I was beaming inside with a joy that I cannot explain. It didn't matter if I was washing dishes, setting the table, picking up trash, or just simply playing with the kids. I was truly happy to be where God had placed me. You see, my back injury was just a part of life, and I almost let it take me out of the game. God is our coach, and he longs to put us in the game. He has a plan, and he will use the willing teammates. I learned how easy an upset like my back could have removed me from the beautiful work that God is doing in Romania. I almost allowed my self-pity to handicap me for God's work. I almost made it about me. Poor me. What do I have to offer? I'm so scared. I'm worthless. Blah, blah, blah. Enough. It's about you, Jesus. It's all about you. Thank you, Lord, for choosing me to be a part of your team, a part of your Romania team. It doesn't matter what we are faced with. If you wake up with a cold or if your car won't start, it doesn't matter if you have cancer or a death in your family. It's not about us and it's not about me. It's about him. So don't let a stinky, self-centered attitude keep you from a joy unspeakable. Don't let it put you on the bench.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's good. I'm not that short. This is a tall world. Okay. You know, I wrote these notes and I've struggled. Okay, thank you. Would you just read this for me? Okay. I have all these pretty cool notes, and I just was sitting there thinking, do I really want to say that, or do I want to say what God has convicted me to say for the last few days? And I'm going to try to do that the best I can, and without throwing up on anybody. So I tried not to eat too much before this, but so we went to go build a house in Romania. That was pretty awesome. When I came back, I was like so excited to tell people about our experience. So I go to work and I only get to tell the 30-second version of it because really people didn't care. So the first question was, did you build the house? And I was like, yeah, but, well, there was no buts after that. And it was so much more than that. And again, excuse my nervousness, but I just want to get my thoughts together. But it was so much more than that. I mean, really, Nate and Matt probably could have built this house with their eyes closed and not had, 9 other people like, hey, what are we going to do next, or what are we going to do next? But God taught me, and when I came back, was that we all had to be there. It wasn't going to work if Vance wasn't there. It wasn't going to work if I wasn't there. God called 11 of us to go on this trip. Some of us not as equipped to build a house as others, but the Romanians could have done this on their own. And what God taught me was that we're all part of His body, every single one of us, to include the folks in Romania. And each one of us brought a special function. I mean, I could go down the list of all 11 of us, but I mean, each one of us brought a special thing to this trip. That thing that could not have not been there, if that makes any sense. Like, not all of us are perfect, and there was so many, like I look at these guys here and they cannot even imagine one extra person or one person short from this trip. And that's what God kind of like pounded in my heart as I was trying to come up with some of this stuff to share with you, was that we're all one body. And it would be like saying, the heart checking out for a year, saying, all right, leg, I want you to do my job. Well, no, we all have a function. And Christine, my gosh, the story that you told for us could not have been told in that manner. And that would be like Paul saying, no, God, I'm not going to write any of the books of the New Testament. I mean, really? And, Vance giving devotionals every day, And we see in the church now that sometimes we're like, gosh, why do I have to do child care today? Or why do I have to do this? But it's what we're here to do. We don't function without each other. I needed Romania as much as they needed me. Now, I probably shouldn't be saying this, but they do have a major contributor who is not supporting them any longer, and there's such a huge need there. And that church needs them as much as they need Romania, if that makes any sense. Because as we lock arms together, each and every one of us here in this church, we stand stronger. I mean, I see my husband as, different men come to him and they have these, bonding time and whatever, but we stand stronger. And the only way I can equate it is, you're out, that tree will fall over if there's really a big heavy wind, but in the forest, that wind just is not going to do damage to all those trees. And so that's what I learned. I learned that, as a body and all of us together, we moved as one unit. So when Danny was down, we were all down. And when we finished the house, we all cheered. And it's not all about like the bad times or the good times. It's life. It's that living water that comes out of us. And that's just pretty much what I learned there.
I can't follow that. What's this? It's a short person's world. Goodness. Oh, Miroslava, you need to be a preacher. Anyway, boy, this is for somebody who loves to speak in front of people and has the gift of gab. This is the easy part for me. The hard part was actually going. I had to be convinced to do this in some ways, in my own mind, in my own heart, because I think my faith is small. There's a lot of things rolling over in my mind. A couple of things. One is incarnational living is a big theological term, but simply that Christ is in us. The second is a phrase comes that the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life. Anytime we try to force a cookie cutter, rule-driven kind of faith on ourselves, on other people, the letter will kill. Immediately, the kind of life that we desire as believers dies when we try to start making this rule by rule, bit by bit. But that the Spirit of Christ living in us produces the kind of life that He wants, that we want. This going on this, it produces this, an actual living faith that trusts God, that risks comfort, that risks money, risks time, costs something. You know, we talk about the parable of the talents is what we call it, where one guy gets a little and another guy gets a little more, and the guy with the least amount doesn't risk anything. In some ways, I feel like that guy. I didn't risk enough of myself for this trip. As a result, I felt kind of cheated, at my own fault. But the return that I got, this is God's grace. No matter how little that we risk, He's going to give back more. There's no reason we shouldn't be putting ourselves out there for the least and the lost, whether that means at work, whether that means in the marketplace. I had the chance to share a gospel. It's funny, I don't share the gospel all that often. I'm working on it. But I got the chance to share the gospel with a lady, TDY, because she needed the Lord. And I had to come out of my comfort zone to really place my heart for Christ out there. And that's what it's all about, placing our hearts out there. Because if our hearts are out there, our time, our money, our things, Jesus says, where your treasure is, there's where your true heart is. This is what this is all about. So, with that being said, that's the preacher part of me. The other half is the poet part of me. Rost was new Rost. It was old Rost was by and large taken away by a flood, and all these people were moved to new Rost, which is not much, by the way. But you had a sense of uprootedness and a sense of just not belonging, because new Rost does seem kind of out of place. But these Christians are known as pokaites, repenters, because as opposed to the Orthodox people, the Orthodox faith, they're being called, the Baptists, the Pentecostals call people to repent, to a life in Christ. And Matt and I sat in the back on the very first worship day, and we just enjoyed this. And I refer to, if you could compare worship, in a sense, we're, as Americans, we like all of we just like style, and we like everything presented and nice and neat on the plate. And this worship was like just the biggest barbecue sandwich that you've ever enjoyed. And it was falling off the plate, and it was sloppy, and it was, wow, just amazing. The flavor and the hearts of the people that had nothing. They absolutely had nothing but God. And they were thankful. They were very thankful. In the midst of that, to individualize it, there was a young lady who had lost her sight when she was 6, 9, something like that. And there was surgery available, but they just didn't have the money to fix it. And so she was mostly blind. And she sang just amazing. But in the story I'm going to share with the poet side is that one day it was either her or the person she got called, she accidentally called a wrong number. And the guy answered, and she said, "I'm sorry, it's the wrong number." And he heard the music and everything going on in the background. And she led him to Christ through a wrong number. Mind blown. Through a wrong number, she led him to Christ. And now he plays in the church. He plays the drums. And his family is coming to the Lord. And people are coming to the Lord. So, anyway, I wrote this. I've already shared it with the team. But it gives you a background. In a tiny church down by the Danube River, in a small, poor, forgotten, flood-touched town, every Sunday and Wednesday, these Pokaites, these repenters, raise a joyful sound. Music and voices swell together, floating and bobbing on the air for all to hear, a grateful deluge that tilts heaven's ear. Among the mighty currents, there is a blind girl who sees and sings like an angel for the Lord above. Through one wrong number, she led a seeing man to sight. She led him out of darkness, of the drowning darkness, into God's glorious light. And now he plays the drums for the Lord above with all his heart and might, rejoicing and grateful for her fumbling and faithful fingers and Jesus' overwhelming love. And still the pastor's guitar rings and the children's choir sings, flooding the tiny church with a river, a golden, rushing torrent of riches and light that flows out into this dark streets of the forgotten little town, carrying everyone caught in its delight. That was, in a word, or a few, our experience. And that with a little and with God there can be a much. If we're willing to put our hearts out there, it's an amazing what he can do and what he's doing, I think, in Romania and in our lives that, Lord willing, will have an impact for years to come.
Hello, my name's Buzz, and just it was amazing in the very beginning when this all started and we came together. We shared some of our fears that we had with one another, and one common fear amongst most of us was, how are we going to raise all this money? And there was a couple that within the group says God will provide. And I gotta say I kind of thought that's a lot of money, and but we prayed about it, and we came together and we sent out support letters, and contacted folks, and God was good. He provided abundantly, and and that was like, you know, the first lesson, you know, just seeing that come in, you know, as far as Nate continued. He had the spreadsheet that was pretty cool, you know, that showed each week, and it just kept going up and up and up until we finally reached what we had planned on, and reaching the goal to get us to Romania. And you know, just the team building part that took place prior to, you know, it just wasn't anything that's haphazard, that we all came together and, hey, let's go save the world. You know, it was awesome how we came together and just grew with one another, you know, in our faith. And you know, through Nate and Christine's leadership, that they were able to bring out to us, and things that we had to be aware of, you know, because oftentimes as Americans we're sometimes called the big elephant, you know, as far as, you know, we'll come in and make a difference, you know, make a change, you know, and step on the little mouse, you know, and so just this training was, you know, just so amazing as far as personal growth, and me and my wife, you know, prior to going to Romania, it was, you know, just, and I've seen that in everybody, and as far as just, you know, I think as humans, sometimes we have our defenders up, you know, as far as our defense, you know, where we don't open up, and then as time went on in this group that we had, our team, you know, you see those defenses drop. And you know, just it was amazing, you know, to experience that with one another, you know, as brothers and sisters in Christ coming together, and you know, and we hadn't even left yet, and this is what God was revealing to me. You know, it was pretty amazing, you know, when you put yourself out there, what God will do to you, you know, and when we got there, it was you know, just amazing to see these folks in Romania. You know, it was mentioned a couple times where, you know, they didn't have very much, you know, and we often take for granted all the things that we have, you know, at our disposal. I mean, and these people, you know, one thing that God really made clear to me was just how rich, you know, they are. You know, even though they have nothing, but rich in faith is, and you know, sometimes that we take for granted, you know, here in the lifestyles that we're used to. And what was awesome was that first Sunday we were there, we had church. We worshiped with them, you know, and I shared this with a couple different people, but you know, we came and there was kind of no one there, and I'm thinking, you know, just to myself, I'm having this conversation saying, okay, you know, where is everybody, you know, and thinking, because it was just us, and there's a couple people, I think, and then, you know, I was kind of concerned, okay, you know, because you saw all the wagons, you know, all we had was a van, but most people didn't have vehicles. They, you know, they had these horse-drawn carts, and, you know, I kind of looked out the window every now and then and didn't see anybody coming. So I just kind of sat in a chair and just started, you know, praying, you know. And then all of a sudden I turned around, and of course, you know, all these kids come in, and I says, "Oh, great," you know, because we had talked, you know, we had met these children there and everything, and then all these other people just started coming in one after another, and you know, even though I didn't speak the Romanian language, you know, it was just. They were just so open and greeting and loving, you know, and that was just you know, just priceless, you know, to put it in perspective, you know, even though we didn't speak the same language in our tongue, just sharing the love of Christ, you know, and you could feel the Holy Spirit. And I like how Vance put that with a sloppy sandwich, you know, because there was no concept of time, you know. It was just like we you know, that was, you know, not only for the service but also throughout the week. You know, we had no watches, we had no telephones, we had no computers, no distractions whatsoever, you know, and God, you know, really brought to light, you know, just how much distractions we have in our everyday life, you know, that takes our focus off of God, you know, and you know, I felt truly blessed in God revealing that to me, you know, just you know, how, like I said, they are so rich and in faith. And I just thank you for all of your support and your prayers and your monetary support. This was truly a blessing, for the whole team, and glorified God in the end. And we just thank you. All right.
It's only fair I go after Buzz, since he stole my speech pretty much. So I can scratch this, the fellowship, and I'm serious. He pretty much said everything I was going to say. So good thing I didn't write it all out. I just had some notes. But I do want to share how did I get to go to this mission trip. We talked about 11 being called to do this, and I feel left out. I think I was chosen because everybody thought I was going from the get-go, and I'll tell you a couple of stories. I kept trying to avoid this, not avoid it, but I had no intention of going on this Romania trip. So the first one was the pastor said, you and Buzz are going. Okay, I guess I'm going. I go home, and my wife tells me the same thing. So what day are you guys leaving again? And I'm like, okay, I guess I am going. And then I get Nate. Nate says to me, did you get the application, Javier? And I'm like, okay, that settles it. That's 3 right there, so I am going. So I'm very happy. That was my first mission trip. Emily's been to several mission trips in the past. She was always, not a several, quite a bit, and she's always shared the testimony, because this is just built your testimony. And I was kind of jealous about that now, but now I'm feeling pretty good about it, that I've been there, done that. So I get my T-shirt that says that. But it's a wonderful experience. I would like to say that the fellowship and the prep to go to this trip was most significant to me. I went in there and said, why we got to go through all this? We're just going to go down there and build a house. I mean, what's so hard about this? The train up. And then that first video that we saw, that just hit me right there. Had I gone with that same mind thought down there, I think I would have screwed everything up from the get-go. I mean, you have to be faithful even to the training. Unfortunately, I missed one of the sessions, but I got the notes. But that's very important that we need to follow up on that, the preparation for that. I think, Nate, you did an awesome job, you and Christine, putting this together. And I think sharing each other and opening it up, everybody's experience there at the beginning is like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I mean, I'm looking at you guys standing up here today, sharing, and I'm like, okay, Miroslava said, I'm not going to do that, and there she is doing it. So we got here, and it's just amazing to see how everything came together. And at the end there, you saw that it said mission accomplished. Not yet. We just got started. Okay, and we're called to do that. So I'm gonna retract that statement and call it that we just continuation, because it's not finished yet. The expectations that I got when I got there, probably for most of you that don't know me, I come from a village similar to that. I grew up in that type of environment. In fact, their living conditions was better than when I grew up. I grew up in a small town in Puerto Rico where they had a well there. No, we had to go and get the water. No electricity. It was not. Now they have microwaves, so it's gone a long way. But that brought me back to my childhood. Yeah. So I know what they were feeling. And something you didn't realize in some of those videos, some of these kids that you did see in these videos were not even supposed to be born. Why? Because their parents had made the choice to get an abortion. And because of Audie and Monty being in that location, I mean, they were able to save some of those lives. And they're alive today because of their presence there. So these are the small things that we don't even think about that is happening there in Romania with that part of the team. And hearing what they're doing there is just a true blessing, I think. Okay, we build a church, but it's not about the church, it's about those little children there that are going to continue in the ministries. You can see they're hungry for Jesus. And from there, I mean, we need to start with the children. If we get these children to come to the Lord and start spreading the gospel, we'll spread like a virus down there. And I think with what we're doing, with with the team going there and easing up the facilities for them to continue to do that, I think it's going to make it a lot easier. And I wouldn't doubt that you'll hear, I mean, at least the 11th that went down there, one of those little kids one day will be somewhere, a pastor somewhere in some church or part of the ROM sharing the gospel down there. So, and everything that Buzz said applies to me too. I'll take credit for that because it's part of my notes. But it was truly a blessing. Like I said in the video, I thought I was going to go there to share something and build something. And when I got there, I think I got the most blessing of all of it. Thank you very much. I'll be followed by Matt Moeller.
So Buzz and Javier just gave my speech. Follow him up. No, I just want to start by thanking all of you and the folks that aren't here while they're recording this for not donating to Romania, but donating to us. I think that you've heard it over and over now that the Romanians didn't need us. This community didn't need us. I mean, we can play on terms all day on what that means, but just the encouragement for us with the Lord through the training and then through the trip was just amazing to me. I think it just was very eye-opening. I took away two things that maybe I'll expand a little bit, have been touched on here. What are riches and what is God's will? And I kind of wrote those into poverty and rain. Ann and I talk a lot about at the house, material things, and the definition that I found of poverty was a state of someone or something that lacks material things. Poverty's out there. We should help them. That's what Christians do. 80% of the world lives below the poverty line. But I can tell you, and you've heard it touched on here, that when we got to Romania, I didn't find any people living in poverty. That definition biblically is not correct, and I witnessed that firsthand. Thomas told me when I got back that short-term missions are more for the missionary than they are for the place that you go, and that it really hit me in the face like a ton of bricks, because they could have built this house. I mean, everybody jokes about Nate and I building a lot of things, and they, Tootie and those guys, they could have easily done it in the community. The community there is just deep, and they live as the way that we're called to in the Bible. I mean, it was awesome to see that, to see the children that were saved from abortion that will grow up as Christians now because people continue to push the word there, to see the fellowship, of the spouses and of just the elders there just giving continuously with no urge of repayment. They didn't want anything back. They just gave openly to each other. And Chasen kind of said at our last meeting of everything in this former communist country kind of seemed black and white until we got to the community of Ross, and then everything was in color because the Lord was there, and it was apparent to see that, and it was beautiful to see that. And then rain, we talked a lot about rain. It rained a lot while we were there, and I didn't know at the time, and Nate kind of told us that this portion of Romania is a very, very large farming community. I think what did you call it? The bread basket of Europe is what it used to be. They grew more stuff there than anywhere else in Europe. So that I know that a lot of you guys, and even on our team, we were praying for the rain to go away so we could work and all these things. And Chasen and I got to talking one morning, and I asked him, what do you think we would do? I've been on a lot of construction sites. I've been wet a lot and cold, and it didn't faze me. And he kind of gave me his answer, and he asked me, and I said, we're gonna work, man. I mean, that's what we're here to do, And it was awesome that people were praying for the rain to go away. And later in the week, Audie and I were talking, and I asked, I kind of mentioned it to him, that we were praying for the rain to stop. And he looked at me and he said, what do you think the farmers are praying for? And he said, who do you think God should answer? And I didn't have an answer for him because I can't answer that. And it was apparent to me right then that God's will was going to happen regardless of us being there or not. The house was going to be built or not. The crops were going to be watered or not. It wasn't we get what we want because we're there and we're going to build a house. I started this journey thinking that I was, rich and a willing and able servant, and I think the richness that I received from being there was more of the want for God's will, in my life, and understanding that that's going to happen. I thank all of you for helping us, and especially helping me as I grow in the Lord and understanding what that means and seeing that happen in Romania. So Thank you very much.
I'm going to hold this because I need props. I'm getting nervous standing in one place. Anyway, so I'm going to hold it back here. Loud. I got a couple things. Really, for me, what it came down to was he stole part of it. You know, the black and white, and I'll get to that. And the other part was, for me, the thing I really took back from it was the group that we went with, more specifically the group of guys that were there. You know, I don't have a lot of, you know, and I've told all of them that I don't have a lot of strong Christian men in my life, and so it was really comforting and it was just a beautiful thing to wake up every morning and go to sleep with a strong group of people in the Lord, you know, and we had a great time together. I'll tell you my first night. So we the first night we were there, you know, went to sleep or whatever. We wake up the next morning, and I wake up, and Matt is standing over my feet, brushing his teeth, staring at me, and I you know, I'm just like, that's not creepy, you know. And that's how it was the rest of the time. But every morning, we don't know how it evolved into this. It was Tim, Matt, and I in a room, and we had like the penthouse or something, I don't know. But every morning before we went, like all the guys would end up in the room. You know, we'd sit there and drink tea or coffee or whatever. We'd be getting ready. Sometimes we'd talk, sometimes we wouldn't. And then every night before we went to bed, all the guys would just filter in there, and we'd sit there, we'd talk, we'd whatever. And what I realized after I left was every morning that we got together and that we just sat together, drank coffee, you know, we're like, all right. We all stood up and we're like, all right, let's do this, time to go. That was just like the energy. You know, all of us were just building energy off of each other, and we worked hard every day. You know, 12-hour work days, rain, no rain, sun, no sun, you know, and it was just beautiful for me. You know, for me, that was one of the major things that I took away from that. The other one was I didn't realize until after I left kind of what was the purpose of all this. You know, we went to build a house, but I mean, big deal. You know, we could have sent the money to Romanians and they could have built a house on their time, how they want, whatever. They didn't have to deal with us doing it the American way, and probably would have been a lot better. It employed some of them for a little while. So, you know, why did we go? And, you know, they kind of hit on it again. I don't really think it was for them. I think it was for us. You know, we went because you've heard everybody talk about how they got something out of it, and especially, you know, the thing about short-term missions, it's more for the missionary. I think we all needed that in our own lives at this current point in time, that we needed something like that so that we could go out later in life. We didn't really do anything that they couldn't do there, you know, and so there just has to be a purpose for that, and I think that's part of what it was. And the overall picture I took away when I left, I think it didn't hit me for like a week or so until after I left, was, you know, why are we really building a house? You know, they live somewhere right now in the children's ministry, you know, they have some room there, maybe they can build their own house later, but what's really the point? What's going to happen? They're going to move in there, they're going to open up the children's ministry. Is this going to be viewed as another American missionary coming in, just spending some money, building some infrastructure, going away, and then everything comes out worse? And I realized that wasn't the case. We weren't just building a house. We were turning on the light, is the way I saw it. We didn't spend much time outside of Rost, you know. Our hotel was in Bylesht, like 15 minutes away, and then you have Rost. We flew into Craiova. But from the time we left, or the time we got there to the time we left, to me it just all seemed kind of, I don't know, dismal, you know. It just, walk around, people weren't, just to me, I didn't see anybody really enjoying life, you know. Not to say everybody had to be bouncing off the walls, but anywhere you went, it was dark. You know, nobody seemed happy. You know, you didn't see a couple walking down the street laughing together or people holding hands going somewhere. It was just, and you could see it, you know, the town that we stayed in, and then Ross. As you're walking down the street, you can just see it. You know, if nobody's there, you can just see it. It's just sad. You know, it's really, really sad to be there. Every morning we would walk over and we would get some some pastries and stuff for everybody, and just every morning it was people going to work, people going home, people on the street, and it's just nobody enjoyed. It was the same thing every day, and it was just, to me, it just seemed like a terrible way to live. And then as you got closer to the church, attitudes changed. We talked to Audie a lot about, how does communism play in today? And he talked, it's still huge. It's been, 20, 30 years since communism supposedly fell, but he says it's evident in everyday life. People don't want to talk to you. People don't want to wave because you might learn something about them, and maybe you tell the government, and then you're going to come in and take everything they have. That was what Audie was like. You're not going to get anybody to wave. Matt's mission was to get somebody to wave, and I don't think it ever happened. And we would all, it's just how we are. You walk down the street, you probably say hi to somebody. There, they'd be like, "What do you want?" And it just seemed like a really bad way to live. But the closer you got to the church, people were smiling, people were laughing. I kind of wish we'd turn the camera around a little bit on that. Not to tear down what you did. It was wonderful, but it's just, we didn't, that's something that you guys will never see unless you go. You saw the color, you saw the kids, you saw everybody enjoying it. But, one thing we talked about a lot was there's a grocery store and a bar right across the street. And Audie said that there's a very good chance that every guy in there is going to hang out, play some pool, get drunk, go home, beat their wife. That's what they do, But you go to church and everybody loves each other. Everybody's smiling, everybody's hugging each other, everybody's playing, everybody's happy in the Lord, and they just want to hear you. They just want to hear what you have. They just want to share your love. I don't know if you saw the little kids, but I don't think you ever saw a little kid that wasn't just clinging on to somebody because there was just that love there. I feel that was the Lord bringing that love, and so building a house, getting them out, getting more children in there, it's going to be, I don't know, you heard me on that video talk about the ripple effect that it might have 10, 20 years down the road. And I really think that this generation of kids being brought up in this church is going to change that. They're not going to be hanging out at the bar beating their wives. That wasn't me. Get on that, Matt. They're not going to be at the bar, and come home and beat their family or ignore their family. You're going to have these kids that grow up in the Lord and they want to share and they want to grow, and next thing you know, they're going to be the teachers at the seminary schools that Audie came from, and they're going to be spreading even further and further. And so I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as we did. I encourage all of you at some point in life, it's never too late. Arnie's 70-something years old, 80 years old, and he's still doing this. So it's never too late to get out there and share the Lord. So.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. So I'm blessed with being the last speaker, which after that is going to be kind of rough. But I've had a pretty unique life. From 13 years old on, I've pretty much lived overseas. I went to high school in Pakistan from my freshman through junior year. It was very poverty there. There's people literally that have no infrastructure. It was mud huts, and they used cow dung for burning to cook their food. So I've been in environments before, so when I signed up for this trip, I didn't think much of the poverty part. Honestly, at the beginning, it was pretty selfish. I've been saved 10 years, actually, and I feel like I had done nothing for the Lord. My family and I we talked about it. We were all believers, but we didn't open the Bible once during the week. I feel like my spiritual life had been very, very cold, like I wasn't doing much for the Lord. As Buzz and other people have talked about, the distractions in life. The smartphones, the internet, the jobs, you just name it, bills. I always pictured a pipe, a clogged pipe. When it's full of distractions, it's clogged, it doesn't work. And that's what a spiritual life is like with all these distractions. So that's where I was when I signed up for this trip. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what I could bring to the table. I got a strong back. I've done construction before. So I figured, yeah, why not? I could be a good manual laborer. I enjoy doing that. But again, as everyone alluded to, it became much, much more when we arrived there. The training definitely prepared us. As Buzz was talking about, the elephant and the mouse, Americans were very materialistic on many, many fronts. We think if we just throw enough money at the problem, it'll heal itself. We don't really think much about it. Money solves all problems. That's the first world mentality. But the reality is 80% of this world lives on less than $2 a day. I don't know about you, but I spend $2 on a bottle of water. So the reality isn't really what we live in a daily basis in the first world. The reality is it's like Pakistan, it's like Romania. There is a need, but the need isn't materialistic. The need is Jesus. It's the gospel. So when we do the short-term mission trips, it's not about throwing money at the problem. It wasn't about building the houses. You've heard from everybody. The house was just kind of a byproduct. The real reason was for Jesus. Jesus is the reason for everything. Nate had some awesome training, and actually one of our last gatherings before we met here was a big brain, gathered a lot of statistics from around the world for mission trips for decades. Decades of data, and he wanted to crunch it, and he crunched it. And he found that all of the places that missionaries went to and just did like mercy trips, handed out food, handed out water, built a house, built a shelter. Over time, things actually got worse than when people went there with the best intentions. It actually made things much worse. But on the flip side, when the gospel was shared, and that was the sole purpose of that mission trip, things got exponentially better. They didn't throw money at the problem. They threw Jesus at the problem. They opened up the gospel. They talked about it. They fellowshiped. They grew koinonia with each other. That's what fixes the poverty in this world. And that is one of the big revelations that the Lord taught me. That it's all about Jesus. That Jesus fixes everything. It's not money. It's not what we can do. It's not about us. It's about us as a body, like Miroslav was talking about. The body is the power, and God uses us mightily when the body is together. And speaking of that, Chase, on our way out, was talking to this random couple. I believe they're from the Netherlands or Belgium, one of the two. And they were actually on a mission trip as well, but he was a optometrist. And he went there to do eye examinations and hand out, seeing glasses and stuff like that. But what was interesting and what really hit me like a ton of bricks was that they were about 10 villages north. They were a good at least 100 miles plus away from Rost. And when Chase started talking to him and told him what we had done there, they actually looked at him and they're like, "Oh, you're them." And we're like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, we heard about you. We heard what you were doing down there." And we're like, "What? We've only been here like a week. How could you possibly have heard about this?" That's what happens when God comes first. When the gospel is spread and we're not just throwing money at the problem. It spreads like wildfire, like people were talking. The church down there, it's the only Baptist church in that area. There is nothing else down there except maybe Pentecostal, I believe, and a Roman Orthodox, but those are mostly empty, thank goodness. But there's not much down there. It's a pretty dark place. And just from the faithfulness of Romania Outreach Ministries, just to spread the gospel, like Jason was saying, the light is getting much brighter. And I feel like that's the point of all of this, about what we did, about the training that we went through, about house, about everything. It's about spreading the word. There's another training that there's only two types of Christians. There's either senders or there's doers. You need to spread the word. That's the point. Don't get comfortable. Don't get distracted. Spreading the word of God is everything in this world. Money is nothing. Like Matt was saying, the definition of poverty, I completely agree with. It is totally wrong. It's from a first world perspective. The definition of poverty is sitting on your faith and doing nothing. That's poverty, in my opinion. A few things I brought back from it, because like I said, my walk was very cold spiritually. I was the definition of distracted. Everything distracted me from it. My family and I have started a Bible study every night. It's such a blessing to actually get into the Word and study it as a family. You know, 2 or more are there, the Lord's with them. And we let my daughter Oriana sing with us. For some reason, I don't even know why, but we'd always put her in the classroom and then we'd come in and sing. But what the Romanians taught me was that Christ is a family event. The gospel is a family event. You don't separate people out. You bring them in with you. You worship. You praise God. You teach them. You teach them young. And as the kids in Romania are going to be the next generation, so are our kids. I would almost say there's more of a need in the first world than there is in the quote-unquote third world, because they don't have the distractions. There's so many stories like Javier was talking about. There's that one kid, I don't know if you remember him. He was the one trying to do the crab walk, but he kind of like fumbled over himself and kind of rolled to the finish line and everything. He was the one who was supposed to be aborted. His mom went to the hospital getting an abortion, and when Audie, being in faith, he said that the Spirit was talking to him. He's like, no, we need to go. We need to go now. We need to go and talk to that mom and tell her about Christ. And that's the result. The life was spared. That's what spreading the gospel does. And I think one of the biggest epiphanies for me was actually the very first Sunday when we were praying and we were worshiping with the community there. All of these women came in, didn't know us from anybody, but their hearts were wide open from the very beginning. There was no bubble. There was no, whoa, hold on. You know, that's not comfortable. Don't come near me. They just came right up to us, shook our hand, kissed us on the cheeks, welcomed us into their church. And then when we started singing, the amount of the Spirit that was coming out of them, the worship, I couldn't believe it, because, like Matt was saying, they're poverty. They don't have anything, but the amount of praise that was coming out of them was nothing short of miraculous. If anybody in this world had an excuse to hate God, it was them. I mean, I guarantee most of those women had been at least beaten once in their life, feared for their life more than once in their life. Husbands who drank, came home, get away with it, beat them up. Kids who are used as tools to steal, to hurt, and to bring back to their family, because that's what kids are for. But they just loved the Lord no matter what, and they had every reason to hate Him. So that was my challenge, like, why am I so cold in my spiritual walk when these people have every reason to be as cold as mine, but they don't? So I challenge you with that. Get rid of the distractions. Spread the word. It's powerful. It's really, really powerful. So don't be satisfied. Don't sit on your faith. Get out there. Do these short-term mission trips. Do long-term mission trips. Live on the dirt. Eat spiders if you have to with people. I mean, who knows what the Lord's going to do with you? Who knows where He's going to take you? I mean, it can be extremely scary. But the power that comes out of it is miraculous, and you will never be the same, ever. So, thanks.
All right. No. So I'll have to call Tim a liar. He was second to last, so I'm the last now, I guess. So for what I learned on the trip was probably a little bit different maybe from everybody you've been hearing up here. Like Christine said, I've been to Romania more than once and kind of seen and experienced a lot of that. And for me on this trip, I think for the most part, I may have got a little bit distracted, not so much distracted, but just making sure everyone on the team was okay, making sure the plans were in place for the building, making sure all the things that was encompassed in making sure this went together. I I lost focus on listening to what God has to tell me while we were in Romania. At the beginning, I talked about reflecting back. I didn't reflect back on that till I got home and started to realize, I should have listened a little bit more, because the Holy Spirit He's great at directing you and those type of things. Not that I wasn't listening to Him, but it just gave a higher sense of priority for me during walking in everyday life, no matter what I'm doing, church, work, whatever, that always constantly listen to what God has to tell you through reading Scripture and through your prayer life. The other thing that I learned as well was a higher sense of need, that I need to be on my knees all the time to pray for long-term missionaries who are in the field, who are on the front lines, who are constantly getting bombarded with spiritual warfare, with all the stuff that they encountered in order to push the gospel forward. For me, that was, it raised my awareness, kind of what Christine talked about, that they go through so many things, so many different types of challenges that, we don't even deal with on a daily basis, all yet they continue to do it for the glory of God and to continue to push the gospel out. So those were the two large things that I took away from it. It's so exciting to hear what everyone has to say, because I haven't talked to everybody, and it's amazing what everyone learned and what everyone got to see, and I agree with everything they said. It's great what they said, and just glory to God for all of it. So thank you so much for those who supported us through prayer and financial giving. Also those on the other end of the camera, wherever you are in the world, thank you as well. The last thing, what we wanted to do before we closed, was to kind of give you an update on where the home is at. If you'd like to see it, there should be a slide up there there you go, where the home is at now. So the roof is completely done. It's all stuccoed around the outside of the home, so the exterior is done and proofed for the winter and the elements that Mother Nature decide to throw at it. The one thing I will note is that, of course, this is just the beginning for this home, so in order to get Adi and Moni out of that children's ministry, to get them in there, there's some other items that need to be done on the inside of the home yet, of course. And the next slide kind of shows what's remaining in the rest of the home as far as what's potentially needed. So if you feel that you want to contribute in that aspect to help with sacrificial giving again to continue the progress of the home so that children's ministry can be fully freed up, which it's very close to being there, there's information down at the bottom where you can get in contact with Romania Outreach Ministries. And just a little bit about Romania Outreach Ministries. You've heard everyone talk about that. That was Arnie in the video, who's the director, and his wife Carolyn. ROM they have Bible schools inside Romania that they started, where they train the Romanians to come in and basically train them through Scripture and push them out as pastors into Romania, help them plant churches all over the country, and Adi is a byproduct of that. And so that's just one place that ROM has their hands in. They have many, many others that they deal with in Romania. And as Miroslava said, there was some sacrificial giving that was pulled from them not too long ago for another church had some other needs they had to take care of. So also, if you feel willing or you're led to help out in this type of ministry to help the gospel and what you heard from all of these people, check out that information there about ROM, and you can even look them up online and things of that sort. So again, we wanted to say thank you so much for all of your support. Thank you for your prayerful, prayer, your support, the whole works. And I know when I speak for Rost, ROM, and even the team, we can't say thanks enough for all of the experiences, reflecting back on our individual things that we learned and what also God accomplished through all of us. So that's all we have for you. If you have questions, feel free to ask questions. We can sit up here and you can grill us if you'd like. So other than that, thanks for coming.